Hello everyone and welcome back. Tonight we are taking a deep look at two currencies that continue to attract enormous attention from investors, speculators, and global market watchers across the world, the Iraqi Dinar and the Vietnamese Dong. Over the last several days, renewed discussions surrounding economic reforms, central bank activity, foreign investment growth, international trade negotiations, and regional financial developments have once again pushed both currencies into the spotlight. Across online investment communities, financial discussion forums, and international currency circles, speculation continues to intensify regarding the long-term future of both Iraq and Vietnam, and whether stronger economic performance could eventually support future exchange rate adjustments. As global markets continue to face uncertainty caused by inflation pressures, interest rate changes, geopolitical tensions, energy market fluctuations, and shifting international trade alliances, investors are paying closer attention to emerging economies that are showing signs of economic transformation. Iraq and Vietnam are now among the most discussed developing economies because both countries have experienced major structural changes in recent years. While financial analysts continue to caution that official exchange rates are determined solely by national monetary authorities and economic fundamentals, excitement surrounding both currencies remains extremely high among international observers. In Iraq, the latest conversations continue to focus on economic reform programs being supported by the Iraqi government and the Central Bank of Iraq. Officials in Baghdad have repeatedly emphasized the importance of strengthening the banking sector, reducing dependence on cash transactions, modernizing electronic payment systems, and stabilizing the country's financial environment. Economic advisors connected to the Iraqi government have also continued discussing plans designed to diversify national income sources beyond oil revenues. These developments are important because Iraq's economy has historically depended heavily on oil exports, making the country vulnerable to fluctuations in global energy prices. Over the last several months, Iraq has increased efforts to improve international investor confidence by launching infrastructure projects, encouraging foreign partnerships, and implementing financial modernization programs. Reports from regional financial analysts suggest that international investors are carefully monitoring Iraq's banking reforms and anti-corruption initiatives to evaluate whether the country can maintain long-term economic stability. Many observers believe that continued reforms could gradually strengthen confidence in Iraq's financial system, although experts also warn that major economic transformations require years of consistent implementation. Meanwhile, the Iraqi dinar continues to generate significant speculation online, especially among holders who believe Iraq's economic potential could eventually support stronger currency valuation in the future. Currency analysts, however, continue reminding investors that exchange rates are influenced by complex factors, including inflation levels, foreign reserve volatility, fiscal policy, monetary policy, political stability, and international market confidence. Financial experts repeatedly emphasize that no official announcement has been made regarding any sudden large-scale revaluation of the Iraqi dinar, despite rumors continuing to circulate across social media platforms and investment groups. Still, optimism surrounding Iraq's economic direction remains strong among many observers because the country possesses some of the world's largest proven oil reserves. Energy exports continue to provide Iraq with substantial government revenue, and analysts say that if oil prices remain supportive while reforms continue progressing, Iraq could gradually improve its overall financial position. Several economists have pointed out that Iraq's efforts to strengthen digital banking systems and reduce reliance on the US dollar in certain domestic transactions are being closely watched by international financial institutions. At the same time, Iraq's government has continued discussing projects connected to transportation, logistics, energy infrastructure, housing, and industrial expansion. Economic planners believe these sectors could help create employment opportunities and stimulate broader economic growth over the coming years. International companies from multiple regions have also shown increasing interest in participating in Iraqi infrastructure projects, particularly in construction, telecommunications, and energy development. These investments are viewed by many analysts as long-term indicators of confidence in Iraq's recovery potential. In the currency market itself, traders continue monitoring movements between the Iraqi dinar and the US dollar on both official and parallel markets. The Central Bank of Iraq has repeatedly stated that exchange rate stability remains one of its major priorities. Financial institutions within the country are also working to improve compliance with international banking standards in order to strengthen relationships with global financial systems. Market observers say these reforms are essential if Iraq hopes to attract broader international investment participation in the future. Across the region, discussions surrounding Iraq's economic future have intensified following renewed government statements about modernization initiatives and regional trade cooperation. Several Middle Eastern economic experts believe Iraq could eventually become a major transportation and trade hub, connecting Gulf economies with neighboring countries. Such ambitions would require enormous infrastructure investment and long-term political stability. But supporters argue that Iraq's geographic position gives it strategic economic advantages. While Iraq remains a major focus among currency watchers, Vietnam is also attracting extraordinary international attention because of its rapidly expanding economy and growing importance in global manufacturing and trade. The Vietnamese dong has become one of the most discussed emerging market currencies, as Vietnam continues strengthening its position as a major export-driven economy. Over the past decade, Vietnam has transformed itself into one of Asia's fastest-growing manufacturing centers, attracting investment from some of the world's largest corporations. International companies seeking to diversify supply chains have increasingly expanded operations into Vietnam, particularly in electronics, textiles, technology manufacturing, and industrial production. This surge in foreign direct investment has significantly contributed to Vietnam's economic growth and export performance. Financial analysts say Vietnam's strategic trade relationships, competitive labor market, and industrial expansion have helped position the country as one of Southeast Asia's most promising economic success stories. Recent economic reports indicate that Vietnam continues experiencing strong export activity, despite ongoing global economic uncertainty. Manufacturing production, international trade agreements, and foreign investment inflows remain key pillars supporting the Vietnamese economy. Economists note that Vietnam's ability to maintain stable economic growth while attracting multinational corporations has strengthened investor confidence in the country's long-term prospects. Because of this rapid economic development, speculation surrounding the Vietnamese dong has continued growing within international currency communities. Many observers believe Vietnam's expanding global role could eventually support greater currency strength over time. However, financial experts continue emphasizing that exchange rate policy decisions are carefully managed by Vietnam's central banking authorities and are influenced by export competitiveness, inflation management, trade performance, and monetary stability objectives. Vietnam's leadership has consistently focused on maintaining economic stability while supporting export growth. Analysts explain that countries with export-driven economies often manage currency policies carefully in order to maintain competitive pricing advantages in international markets. This means that any major exchange rate shifts would likely occur gradually and strategically rather than through sudden dramatic changes. Nevertheless, excitement surrounding the Vietnamese dong continues increasing as investors examine Vietnam's expanding role in global commerce. The country's growing technology sector, rising manufacturing capacity, and expanding middle class are frequently cited as reasons why many analysts remain optimistic about Vietnam's long-term economic trajectory. Financial institutions across Asia continue highlighting Vietnam as one of the region's strongest emerging market performers. At the same time, global geopolitical shifts have also contributed to increased international interest in Vietnam. Trade tensions between major global powers have encouraged many multinational companies to diversify production networks, and Vietnam has emerged as a key beneficiary of that transition. Industrial zones across the country have seen rapid expansion as international manufacturers continue relocating or expanding operations there. Currency watchers are also paying close attention to Vietnam's foreign reserve position. trade surplus performance, and inflation management policies. Economic experts say these indicators are important because they reflect overall macroeconomic stability. Vietnam's government has continued prioritizing infrastructure investment, technology development, renewable energy expansion, and digital transformation initiatives designed to support sustainable long-term growth. Meanwhile, social media speculation regarding both the Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong has continued spreading rapidly online. Videos, blog posts, and discussion forums frequently promote theories regarding possible future exchange rate scenarios. Financial professionals continue urging caution regarding unverified rumors and encourage investors to rely on official information released by central banks and recognized financial institutions rather than speculation circulating online. Despite the rumors, there is no confirmed evidence from official monetary authorities indicating any immediate dramatic revaluation event for either currency. Analysts emphasize that currency values are shaped by broad economic realities rather than speculation alone. However, many investors continue following developments closely because they believe both Iraq and Vietnam possess significant long-term economic growth potential. Another important factor influencing discussions around both currencies is the changing global financial environment. Central banks around the world continue navigating inflation concerns, interest rate adjustments, and slowing growth in certain economies. Emerging markets that demonstrate stability, export strength, and investment growth are increasingly attracting international attention. Iraq and Vietnam are frequently included in conversations about economies that could experience major structural transformation over the coming decade. Oil markets also remain a major influence on Iraq's economic outlook. Because Iraq depends heavily on petroleum exports, fluctuations in global energy prices directly impact government revenue and fiscal stability. Higher oil prices generally improve Iraq's financial position, while lower prices can create budgetary pressure. Analysts say Iraq's long-term challenge will be successfully diversifying its economy beyond energy exports in order to reduce vulnerability to market volatility. Vietnam, on the other hand, faces different economic challenges. As a manufacturing-driven economy, Vietnam must continue balancing export competitiveness with rising labor costs, infrastructure demands, and global trade uncertainties. Economists believe Vietnam's ability to maintain stable growth while continuing industrial modernization will be critical for sustaining investor confidence over the long term. In financial circles, some analysts argue that both Iraq and Vietnam represent examples of emerging economies attempting to transition into stronger regional economic powers. Iraq's strategy centers around reconstruction, energy revenues, and financial modernization, while Vietnam's model focuses on manufacturing expansion, trade integration, and foreign investment attraction. Though the paths are different, both countries are drawing increasing global attention. Banking sector reforms continue playing a major role in discussions about Iraq's financial future. Iraqi officials have repeatedly stressed the importance of strengthening compliance systems, improving transparency, and modernizing banking operations. International observers believe these reforms are necessary if Iraq hopes to integrate more effectively with the global financial system. Improved banking infrastructure could also support broader economic development and investor participation. Similarly, Vietnam's banking sector has also undergone modernization efforts designed to support rapid economic growth. Financial technology adoption, digital payments, and investment reforms have helped expand economic activity throughout the country. International financial organizations continue monitoring Vietnam's economic management closely because of its increasing importance within regional trade networks. Some market analysts believe the greatest driver behind continued excitement surrounding both currencies is the broader psychological effect of economic transformation stories. Investors are often drawn toward countries experiencing rapid development because they hope future economic success could eventually translate into stronger national currencies. Iraq and Vietnam each represent unique narratives of recovery, growth, and international integration that continue capturing attention globally. As discussions continue across global financial communities, experts emphasize that patience and realistic expectations remain essential. Currency markets are highly complex, and major exchange rate movements rarely occur overnight without substantial underlying economic changes. Governments and central banks generally prioritize financial stability over speculative expectations. Still, optimism surrounding both nations continues building as new economic projects are announced and foreign investment interest expands. Iraq's reconstruction efforts and Vietnam's manufacturing boom are frequently highlighted as examples of how developing economies can evolve under the right economic conditions. Investors around the world will continue watching closely for signs of sustained progress. Another major development attracting attention is the increasing role of regional partnerships and international trade agreements. Vietnam has successfully entered multiple global trade agreements that have expanded export opportunities and improved market access. Iraq, meanwhile, has continued exploring regional economic cooperation initiatives aimed at strengthening trade and infrastructure connectivity throughout the Middle East. Global investment firms are also closely monitoring demographic trends in both countries. Vietnam possesses a relatively young and productive workforce that supports manufacturing expansion and domestic consumption growth. Iraq likewise has a large young population, and economists say job creation will be one of the country's most important long-term economic priorities. Technology is becoming another important factor influencing economic expectations. Vietnam's technology sector has grown rapidly in recent years, attracting startup investment and international partnerships. Iraq is also gradually expanding digital services and electronic banking infrastructure as part of broader modernization programs. Analysts say digital transformation could become increasingly important for both economies moving forward. International currency traders continue emphasizing that speculative enthusiasm should always be balanced with careful research and realistic expectations. While economic growth can strengthen confidence in national currencies over time, exchange rate policies remain under the control of central banking authorities and are influenced by many interconnected economic variables. In Iraq, ongoing efforts to combat corruption and improve administrative efficiency are viewed as critical challenges that will influence future investor confidence. Political stability and institutional reforms remain major factors affecting long-term economic outlooks. Similarly, Vietnam must continue balancing rapid growth with infrastructure expansion, environmental sustainability, and financial stability management. Even with these challenges, market sentiment surrounding both countries remains remarkably optimistic compared to previous decades. Iraq's recovery from conflict and Vietnam's emergence as a manufacturing powerhouse represent major transformations that continue drawing international attention. Financial observers say the global perception of both nations has evolved significantly as economic opportunities expand. Across social media platforms, conversations regarding possible future currency appreciation scenarios continue generating enormous engagement. However, experts consistently remind investors that rumors should never be treated as confirmed financial events. Official exchange rate decisions are announced through central banks and government authorities, not online speculation. Looking ahead, investors and analysts will continue monitoring several key indicators for both countries. In Iraq, oil revenues, banking reforms, political stability, foreign investment activity, and infrastructure development will remain major areas of focus. In Vietnam, export growth, manufacturing expansion, trade performance, and foreign investment inflows will continue shaping economic expectations. International financial institutions have generally expressed positive long-term outlooks regarding Vietnam's economic trajectory, citing strong industrial growth and export performance. Iraq's outlook remains more closely tied to energy markets and reform implementation. But many analysts believe the country possesses significant untapped economic potential if reforms continue progressing successfully. As the global economy continues evolving, emerging markets are likely to remain an important area of investor interest. Countries capable of maintaining stability while attracting investment and expanding productive industries may continue strengthening their positions within the international financial system. Iraq and Vietnam are increasingly being viewed through that lens by global observers. Tonight's developments once again demonstrate why the Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong remain among the most closely watched currencies within speculative investment communities. Although no official announcements regarding dramatic exchange rate changes have been confirmed, the broader economic stories surrounding both countries continue fueling global discussion and investor curiosity. For now, financial experts recommend focusing on verified economic data, official government statements, and credible financial analysis rather than relying solely on online rumors. Economic transformation is typically a long-term process shaped by years of policy decisions, investment flows, institutional reforms, and international market conditions. Still, there is no doubt that Iraq and Vietnam have become two of the most discussed emerging economies in today's global financial conversation. From Iraq's energy-driven reconstruction efforts to Vietnam's manufacturing and export expansion, both countries are pursuing ambitious economic futures that continue attracting worldwide attention. As investors continue watching every development closely, the coming months are expected to bring further discussions surrounding trade growth, foreign investment, infrastructure expansion, and financial modernization initiatives in both nations. Whether these developments eventually influence long-term currency valuations remains a topic of intense debate among analysts and investors alike. For millions following these stories around the world, one thing is certain. The Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong will remain at the center of international financial speculation and emerging market discussions for the foreseeable future. And as global economic conditions continue changing, every policy announcement, investment agreement, banking reform, and trade development from Baghdad and Hanoi will continue being watched with extraordinary interest by currency observers across the globe. Thank you for joining us for tonight's in-depth financial update. Stay tuned for more international market coverage, currency news, economic developments, and global investment analysis as we continue following the latest stories shaping the future of emerging economies around the world.